Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Super Mario 64. In the last part, we made our way to Hazy Maze Cave and got a couple stars in there as well as the metal cap. And now before we go finish that world off, we're actually going to be quickly heading back here to Jolly Roger Bay, as we still haven't done Mission 6 here through the jet stream. Why? Well, you need the metal cap to actually do this. I think technically for this and another mission like it down the line, there is a way you can just do it with swimming, but it's so precise that in my eyes it's just worth actively going out of the way to get the metal cap and waiting for it. So for this mission, you might remember at the bottom of the major, pool of water here, there is a jet stream that's putting a current upwards, and the star is just going to be in the middle of that. Get Metal Mario, long jump in, and hopefully make it there in time. The timer here, like with the mission we did back in Hazy Maze Cave to get Metal Mario, is surprisingly strict, but once you're down here, you're probably going to make it as long as you get to the iron grate in the center of it in time, because the current will just carry you up into the star at that point. With that, the only thing we haven't done yet in this world is getting the 100 coin star, so let's get that done right now. 100 coins here is definitely a little iffy, as the world is so comparatively small, there's only so many coins over 100. My biggest recommendation, though, is making sure you get the coins near the stone pillars on the surface of the water as soon as you can, as, while those aren't bad ones to get last, there's times where the star will get positioned just weirdly enough near the pillar where it requires kind of climbing it by walking up it, as I end up having to do here. I recommend trying to make your last coins either the yellow coins here or the blue coins here in the far cave, as it's just the safest place to do so otherwise. With that said, not the hardest 100 coin mission. We'll be getting to that in my eyes sooner rather than later. And it's mostly just hard because of the amount of coins in that level to begin with being so relatively low. But yeah, I did that thing I said you shouldn't, and getting this star isn't impossible because you can kind of run up the bottom of these. In fact, I think there's a seam you can walk up them that just allows you to walk up them, period. But definitely a little awkward. Jumping out the water at its surface isn't exactly comfortable, but there's a couple times that doing it in certain ways can actually come in really handy to make certain stars a little bit faster. Also, notably, I don't think I mentioned this yet, whenever you exit a course willingly like that, it always takes you back here to the lobby, which, handy in some cases early on in the game, a little annoying in others, but it's not a big deal. Peach's Castle is such a relatively small area that it doesn't take long to get from one part to another. So with that, let's get back to Hazy Maze Cave and go finish that world off before we head up any of the other worlds in this specific basement level of the castle. Now, something to note about the next couple of stars in specific here in Hazy Maze Cave is that while it doesn't require it like Star 3 did, they heavily reward getting the metal cap for these two stars, as, like I mentioned last time, the metal cap not only allows you to breathe underwater and effectively be invincible against any given enemy, but it also makes you invincible against poison gases. The Hazy Maze in Hazy Maze Cave is filled with such poison gas. And while there are coins and spots that you can jump on to be safe and recover your health a little bit, you might as well just get the metal cap to make this easier. Hidden inside the green block is the amazing metal cap. Wearing it, you won't catch fire or be hurt by enemy attacks. You don't even have to breathe while wearing it. Only problem, you can't swim in it. Now, you really need to in any case. In fact, the reward's not swimming. Danger ahead, beware of the strange cloud. Don't inhale. If you feel faint, run to higher ground and fresh air. Circle, shelter, arrow, exits. So, they do give you a map of the maze there, but notably, what we're looking for here in the maze for the next two stars is little inlets just above the camera in most cases that you can double jump up to. The maze is small enough where you can just soldier through the poison gas and make it in time, but you really need to either learn the layout from the map or just get real lucky about exploring on your first playthrough to find them, as they can be kind of devious with the camera placement here. Double jumps and backflips work to get to the doors in question, by the way. So through this door takes us to the first of the two stars that the maze itself leads to. This is going to lead us right up to the other side of the iron gate we saw on the way to Dory's area, thus getting us our next star. Now, if memory serves, and of course I'm going back well over 20 years, so I might be misremembering, I think I got the star we just obtained second out of the two tied to the cave's maze directly. And it took me a while to find after finding the one we're gonna get next, as I refuse to believe the pathways could be as close as they actually are. And I think after that I got lost for a little bit longer, because for some reason I thought that the third star that we're gonna get here, this part, was also tied to the maze for some reason. I could not tell you why. Although I believe in the case of what we're going after now, there's also another way to get that's tied to the room with the rolling boulders, but it's like a pretty precise double or triple jump into a wall jump that I just don't care to do because the camera in that room really does not like trying to do that in my experience. Like with the previous mission, we just need to double jump or backflip up to one of the inlets, and then we'll be able to access the level design for this star. With that said, I should note, the portion of this level dedicated to this star is really risky for the 100 coin mission. It's still really good to get the coins for it, don't get me wrong. But if you make certain coins in this upcoming section, the 100th coin, the star will spawn, but it'll be in a region you actually cannot reach yourself, and thus, I believe you're just screwed. Unless you need to either take a death or leave the stage intentionally and then go from there. Because in this area is the first time the game really wants you to hang on to something directly over you. How do you do this? Well, I think this sign right here does a pretty good job of explaining it in so many words. If you jump and hold on the A button, you can hang onto some objects overhead. It's the same as grabbing the flapping bird. You do need to hold the button, otherwise you do fall. But yeah, the coins along this path of iron grating. If you make one of them your 100th coin, the star will spawn above you. But to my knowledge, I don't think there's a single way to get up there. Because I think it's technically an invisible wall past there. And that sucks, so be careful with that when you get to doing the 100 coin mission in this level, should you do the 100 coin missions at all. 5 of the 6 main stars here down, and thankfully the 6th one is very easy, and it's also very close to that last one, so we once again need to head back to the Rolling Rock room. And honestly, I think this is one of the first stars I found in this level. I think it was like the 2nd or 3rd one on my first playthrough. Watch for rolling rocks. Now, this is also one of the few stars in the game that actively requires using the wall jump, so if you're not liking how that feels or you haven't really felt it out yet, this is probably the mission to do so. In fact, I'd say it's probably the easiest mission to do required wall jumps in the game, because the position to do them from is so safe and there's not a bottomless pit directly near you. What we need to do, go over by this arrow, get next to this door, and then wall jump the space between the walls. Upon doing so, it'll be on the platform on the right, facing the door. Pretty quick to get to, and honestly, that's even made a lot easier in DS, because I believe they made wall jumping easier in DS, but I kind of almost wish this world was placed a little bit earlier, if only because the wall jumping tutorial for that, I think, is a little easier to do than the actual one they gave you back at Cool Cool Mountain, but oh well. And now it's time for the 100 coin mission. Worth noting, the spiders, the first time they spawn in, can give you some good coinage. There's a lot of good coinage in this room because of the red coins, of course. But you really want to take advantage of the blue coin switch in the maze, as that'll give you, I think, at least like 30 or 40 of the coins you need for this star. I think this is one of the more annoying 100 coin missions in the game, if only because, due to the more linear pathing of Hazy Maze Cave, there's less options where you can go at any point in time, and any coins missed in a room matter more because of that. With that said, make sure you take care of the Mr. Eyes as well, as they give a blue coin for every single one you kill, so that's an extra 10 coins just in that room with the 8 red coins at all. I think the best way to end this mission in my experience, and I do so here, is to end it with the coins in a circle near the elevator to Dory's area, as it's just a very safe area, there's no enemies in there, and you don't need to be worrying about coins being placed in awkward positions to grab last. That's another course, 100%. Time for us to move elsewhere here in the basement. So, at this point, I can either access a sub-level pretty close to the basement, as well as 3 full courses, technically. But because I'm going in course order, our next destination is going to be the painting we've seen a couple of times already. The one here near the basement that has a face made of fire on it. With that said, I actually would recommend maybe either heading into the star door if you have enough stars at this point, or heading to the other level down here first, as I do think this next level is a bit of a danger upgrade even compared to Hazy Maze Cave. Also, be careful, the fire in here can damage you, as weirdly silly as that is. Welcome to Lethal Lava Land. Boil the Big Bully is our first mission here. Guess the main gimmick of Lethal Lava Land. You're correct. Don't be a pushover. Anyone who tries to shove you around, push back. It's one-on-one with a fiery finish for the loser. It's Lethal Lava Land. If you catch fire or fall into a pool of flames, you'll be hopping mad, but don't lose your cool. You can still control Mario, just try to keep it cool. Running around in circles makes some bad guys roll their eyes. Touching fire in Mario 64, you take some pretty heavy damage, about a 1/4 of your health bar. And then you start bouncing around. And what's annoying is, if you land on the ground too much after that, you do still run for a little bit, like, uncontrollably, so you need to keep that control in mind. With that said, this course also makes for a pretty difficult one compared to prior ones, not just because of the lava itself, but also because of how sparse the platforms keeping you above it are. At times, this level feels less like a proper course in the game and more like a Bowser level they just actively gave more stars. With that said, our main goal here in the first star is to take care of this bully enemy. Safest way to do that, do a jump kick repeatedly into it as it tries to run into you. It'll take the hit instead and get knocked further backwards. Upon knocking this bully into the lava, a staircase will spawn between this platform and the one over there, and we can access the star. I don't think this mission's as hard as I used to, but you do gotta be careful with stuff like that because I take that hit almost every time I play the game. Now, while this level is sparse, if there's something I will give it, they do smartly give every star its own chunk of the sparse platforms. You just need to figure out which ones you need to hit up first. Which is especially helpful in this next stage, which is weirdly similar to the last one. After Boil the Big Bully, we gotta bully the bullies. Whereas the last stage ended with us taking care of one big bully, this one we need to take care of several smaller ones on a platform just to the right of the one we were just on. The one on the top right of the screen next to the little dome-shaped one, actually. And you can reach that either by doing a jump onto a moving platform at the big bully platform we were at earlier, but you could also actively reach it by going the other way around the map. Also, as I was just trying to showcase there, ground pounding near a bully is also a pretty decently effective strategy against them, but a little less reliable than the jump kick. But when you're facing the small bullies, you don't exactly have as many options as the big ones because they're just a little bit faster. And also, this is where I'll fully admit, I am actually doing this star completely wrong. For years, I've thought you had to take care of every bully in the stage to do this. No, you just need to take care of the one set. Taking care of all the other bullies is still useful for like the 100 coin mission, don't get me wrong, but I'm actively fighting years of misremembering this mission as I recorded this footage. And I could have just done a different take of it where I actually did the proper mission, but I figured it's better just to showcase A, where all the bullies are, but also B, my misremembering about that. I guess it kind of makes it play similarly to how someone would on their first playthrough where they're gonna just actively go after every bully, but it is ultimately me just forgetting things and not doing the correct objective along the way. But hey, I guess it's good to do in some form. Helps it in some regards. It's very easy to kind of get lost while playing these levels, but not get lost in the levels. That's a different Mario game. Where you just kind of start wandering, playing, and doing what you can along the way. It's actually what I think really made Odyssey feel very special, because its entire game feel was based on that. Because what's interesting is, despite being the blueprint for a lot of games to come, in a lot of ways Mario 64 isn't like a lot of other 3D platformers of its era, in that those are usually more closer to like collectathons in some form or another, outside of things that are still mission-based like Ape Escape or things of that nature. Mario didn't really do a collectathon in the more traditional sense until Odyssey, and honestly, it is one of the best feeling ones in that regard. Helps that I just don't tend to prefer collectathons on average. Either way, our mission in this, well, mission is to get to this island, take care of the 3 bullies that are here by default, and then take care of the big bully that spawns in. After that, the star will spawn upon destroying them. I do really find it weird that they put these 2 missions directly next to each other when they're effectively the same thing, but just with more, without much to really change the difficulty of it, but ultimately it's not that bad. Again, these missions at most take like 3 or 4 minutes in some cases, so it's really not a big deal. But that's star number 50. You've recovered 50 power stars. Now you can open the star door on the 3rd floor. Bowser's there, you know. Oh, you found all the cap switches, haven't you? Red, green, and blue? The caps you get from the color blocks are really helpful. Hurry along now, the 3rd floor is just ahead. So that means we can now actually access the star door that's past the next boss fight already. So we can already access effectively the majority of the levels in the game now, effectively all the way up to the final courses. With that said, that means we're also most of the way to the magic number of 70 we need to do to actually finish the game outright without doing speedrunning strats. But since we're going for 100%, we're not going to be going that way for a while. So Lethal Lava Land has the funniest 8-coin mission in the game, that they're all just on this sliding block puzzle of Bowser, and you can get that done in less than 30 seconds. Depending on how the sliding pieces decide to move, even though they move in a set order, it's really just if you're not paying attention properly. It is possible to get trapped beneath one and comboed into the lava over and over again and die within like 5 seconds. But frankly, it's kinda unlikely. Red hot log rolling is a bit interesting. Now, there's 2 notable ways you can do this. the normal way and the slightly faster, albeit slightly trickier way. The star is over in the corner that we just saw there, and the main way you can get there is by going over to the Bully Island over on that side of the area, and then jumping on a platform that's moving between that and the log in question that we can roll on top of. But also beneath this Mr. I is a teleport point bringing us over here where there's a wing cap block. And if you get really good jumps especially, you can just clear that fence right there and get right up to the star. I've never been too good about that, hence why I say this is a little trickier. But you can. I mean, you can just completely skip the main gimmick of this stage. Rolling on logs in this, there's only really like, I think, 2 or 3 stars in the game that really requires it. There is a bit of an art to it in that you really have to be deliberate about how far on the log you are before it actively starts, like, making you slide on it. But it's easy enough due to the size of it where it's not that big of a deal. Later log rollings are much thinner, and thus notably harder. But yeah, the main way the one you get here is by going to that island, going across, and then rolling the log, but we can just fly. With that, we're now already onto the final 2 stars of the world, and they both involve the very literal central centerpiece here in Lethal Lava Land, the volcano. Notably, and you could have done this just by messing around with it, you may have noticed you can actually enter the volcano in question, and doing so will lead us to another section of level design. Something we don't really get to see in this LP, if memory serves, is that if you take too long around the volcano as it spins, for one thing, the donut that's around it does, I believe, reverse direction. But also, I believe the volcano will just spew out fire every here and there, but it's so small with the area you have that it's basically never a threat. Now, the interior of the volcano has 2 stars because there's 2 pathways, one directly in front of you, and then when you enter, the other is also directly behind you. But the first star here in order is the one that requires us to go in front of us, which is just a ring around the external of the volcano, effectively. Gotta watch out for that crusher block right there, but otherwise this star is pretty straightforward, simple platforming. The camera can be a little iffy here for some of these jumps in my experience, but mind you, that's kind of a running theme in the game to begin with, where because this is such an early 3D platform, while the camera is honestly pretty good for a first attempt, the occasional camera angle and the lack of abilities to adjust it in ways that feel meaningful can definitely be a little rough, especially when you worry about jumping from pole to pole right here. And that's the first of those stars done, but when we enter the next star, we're going to take a moment to do some speed up, as I figure I can take care of the 100 coin mission at the same time as the final of the 6 main stars here. And doing this specific 100 coin mission can be a little rough because of how sparse the level design is. But a good thing to keep in mind is that there is a Koopa shell you can use to ride around on top of the lava harmlessly, which allows you not only to access some islands that are otherwise very hard to, but also collect a majority of the coins in this level pretty quickly. Plus, it makes taking care of the bullies, as you can see, a little tedious, but pretty easy because you just hold forward and you'll knock them in eventually. With that said, if you're trying to get a coin from an enemy drop, be very careful, as if the enemy's coin drops into the lava, it's just gone and you're not getting that back. And especially if it's one of the blue coins from the Mr. Eyes, especially the one on the distant island, that can really put a damper on your end totals here. Also worth noting, you do need to enter the volcano to get 100 coins here, I believe. But when you enter the volcano, you're stuck in the volcano, so make sure you have all the coins you need before heading in. Also, if you die in the volcano, you actually start in the volcano after jumping back into the painting. Not many times off the top of my head the game does that, but I appreciate it when it does, because it saves on a little bit of backtracking, and I'm glad they realized that. So, like I've already said, the final star here in Lethal Lava Land is back here in the volcano. We need to go behind the entrance to actually reach the elevator we need to ride, like the one from Hazy Maze Cave. The jump right here is pretty well hidden. I think the platform actually doesn't rise or lower with time. I think it's just your distance to it, effectively. But the elevator ride here can be awkward. For one thing, you do need to swap elevators about halfway through. The one you're on immediately does actually drop at that point, too. But because we're so close to the center of the elevator, the camera here starts to get really awkward to work with, as depth perception just gets really weird, especially as you're jumping on poles from one pole to another while avoiding fire. It's a little weird, but again, early 3D game growing pains, depth perception and camera work, not exactly perfect. Mind you, depth perception is just kind of an issue across a lot of 3D platformers, not just of the era, I'd say even to more recent days. That might just be me, though, because as you may have noticed over the channel's years, I play a lot more 2D games than 3D, but that's largely because my favorite franchise of all time is Mega Man. So, of course, my main platformers are 2D. You know? Yeah, this is the fire in question that I just find dodging really awkward, especially given the rate at which it rotates. It's very hard to reach that platform quickly while not getting hit. And then we're just a few hops away from the star. Simple platforming that I immediately fail. Ow, my pride. Once we're back in there though, let's just grab that. Thus, Lethal Lava Land is completed, and we can now move on to Course 8, which is very close by. But unless you're going for the rabbit, you're probably not going to notice it immediately. Because the painting for this one's a lie. It's just a seemingly solid wall. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in Part 7, we're starting off Course 8. See you guys then.